Here's what happens a lot in marriages, whether they're early in their marriage or later in their marriage, but when they haven't learned to communicate through their issues, here is exactly what happens. So here's what not to do whenever you have issues in your marriage. You ready? So you have an issue in your marriage, and we're going to call it they forgot the anniversary. We're not going to blame the guy here, okay? It's not always the guy's fault. Maybe she forgot the anniversary. I don't know. But let's just say somebody forgot the anniversary. Well, the other person doesn't really want to cause a stink or anything, and so what they do is they grab the broom, and what they do is they just sweep it under the rug. And yeah, we're not going to talk about that, but they're pretty mad about it, really are. And then life goes on, and another issue comes up. Let's just see what this is. Oh, you disrespected me in public. That is not a good thing for the guy or the girl, but especially the guy. But anyway, he didn't want to say anything about it, or she didn't want to say anything about it, and so he grabs that broom as well, and he just sweeps it under the rug. Don't want to talk about that right now. Don't want to cause a stink. So we go on through life, and so a couple of days later, maybe, hopefully not, but a good while later, somebody gets really mad because their spouse is married to their hobby. They're gone all the time with their hobby, whatever it might be, whether it be golf or shopping, whatever, okay? But they're married to their hobby. But the other spouse doesn't want to be upset about that and wants to have a good attitude about it, and just doesn't want to say anything about it, so they grab the broom as well, and they sweep it under the rug. So what happens is another issue comes up, and one spouse is wasting the money on whatever. Okay, well, the other spouse gets mad about it, but doesn't want to say anything about it, so they grab the broom and they sweep that under the rug. So let's sweep that under the rug. We don't want to talk about that. That's going to cause too much of a stink. And so what happens is you go through life, and then something else comes up. And apparently a lot of spouses argue about this, and that is they're not doing any household chores. You know, they're not doing anything. They're not washing dishes. They're not taking out the trash. They're not picking up after themselves. They just leave a mess everywhere. You know, they're just a slob, you know. But we don't want to say anything about that. We just keep cleaning up after them and never even, broach the subject. And so we're going to grab that broom and we're going to sweep that under the rug as well. And then what happens, as you can see, it's getting pretty rough right here, but somebody gets rejected in bed because of something, who knows what. But you know what? If they talk about it, then they might be rejected in bed for a lot longer. And so they don't want to say anything about it, but they're harboring a little bit of resentment there, and it's just not good. They're just upset about it. And so, yep, they're going to grab that broom and they're going to sweep that under the rug as well. We'll put that right there. Well, as you can see in the rug, we have quite a molehill that's turned into a mountain under the rug. And this is where we walk every day in the living room. And so sure enough, the next day we're going to come through here, and we're not going to realize it, but we're going to trip. We're going to trip over this mound, and it's going to set us off because a lot of this stuff has been building and building and building, and it's formed a root of bitterness in us, and we just kind of go off. And what happens is whenever we go off on whatever the issue was, we bring up history, and we look under the rug, and we say, well, you rejected me in bed 2 months ago, and I can't believe you did that. Well, you don't do any household chores, and I'm sick of it. Well, you're married to your hobby, and you're always gone. You wasted our money on that whatever, okay? Well, you disrespected me in public, embarrassed the fool out of me, and you forgot about our anniversary. You see what happens? Whenever we don't deal with the issues, they build up, and we start to trip over them whenever the smallest thing comes up. I mean, it could be the smallest thing, and it'll tip us off, and we'll bring up the past, and it's just not good at all. So the key here is to deal with the issues and keep them on top and not sweeping under the rug. Deal with the issues as they come up. Yeah, it may take a couple of days, but deal with them so that you can be done with them. Deal with that, you're done with that. deal with that, you're done with that. And it's not building up. You're done with it. And you're growing and you're learning and you're getting closer and closer in your marriage because you know how to communicate and deal with your differences.